Hello, my friends, and welcome to Studio de Jefre, where today, I know a lot of times I'll get pretty far in the weeds with draft talk with the draft approaching, and I'm going to do that again today, but in a nice, easy, digestible way for you. How about that? What I'm going to do is I've put together the Cowboys depth chart, the Cowboys depth chart on offense and defense. I'm going to put it up on the screen if you're watching on the YouTube. If you're listening in audio form, I'll read through the names too, just to see where are the Cowboys in terms of being ready to draft. And then I'm going to give you every target that I believe is worthy of being a first-round pick or a second-round pick. We'll see how far I go on each side of the ball, right? So here is the Cowboys offense as it stands today. At quarterback, you have Dak, Will Grier, Cooper Rush, and the upside-down Dallas hat guy, Ben DiNucci. Doesn't matter, right? Don't worry about it. There's nobody that's going to, maybe you would take somebody in the mid to late rounds to see if he could take two of those people's jobs, but who cares? It doesn't even matter. At running back, currently, Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott. Yes, I listed them that way on purpose. I'll enjoy the comments for that. Rico Dowdle, who I like, by the way. Jaquan Hardy, our boy Siwo at fullback, and Ralston. That's two fullbacks that are listed there for you. So do the Cowboys have to do anything at running back in this draft? No, they don't. Will they? Maybe. Tony Pollard is in a contract year. Zeke, I believe that this may be the final year for Zeke in Dallas. So are you in the market for another running back? Very possible. Will it be a factor early in the draft? No. Tight end, your depth chart currently, Dalton Schultz, and then you can debate what order the next two go in, but Jeremy Sprinkle and Sean McEwen, and then Ian Bunting is on the roster. I put everybody on here that's on the roster. You don't have to worry about Ian Bunting, but he's a guy that's on the roster. Is tight end relevant? Yes, it is. Because Dalton Schultz is on the franchise tag, and we haven't heard a word about getting a long-term deal done for him. Jeremy Sprinkle, Sean McEwen, and Ian Bunting until further notice. Don't worry about it. So, I don't have a guy that I would consider in the first or second round at tight end in this draft. But if you want to watch for names for the Cowboys to pick starting in the third round, Jelani Woods at Virginia is my 6'7", 260-pound freakazoid athlete. Trey McBride is a tight end who had 90-some-odd catches, over 1,000 yards last year. Jeremy Ruckert at Ohio State did not have hardly any stats because they just throw to the wide receivers, but I think he's a nice prospect. So third round, there's three names, according to me, that you should consider. Wide receiver, you have CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, James Washington, Noah Brown, Simi Fehoko, TJ Vasher, and I forgot Smith's first name. Sorry, Mr. Smith. But you do have 7 guys technically on the roster, but at the same time, that ain't good enough. That group ain't good enough. You're good enough at 1 and 2, but that group ain't good enough, which is why we are going to talk a lot about wide receivers. I think I lean towards I want one of my top 7 guys in this draft because I do think it's deep enough that it goes about 13 guys deep that could make a difference for an NFL offense. But at number 24, just keep an eye on what order these guys go in. Garrett Wilson, Ohio State. Sky Moore is my number 2 wide receiver. I know everybody hates it. Sky Moore. Treylon Burks at Arkansas is my number 3 wide receiver. People who think he's slow or crazy, don't worry about that. Drake London at USC is my number 4 receiver. Jamison Williams at Alabama, the burner, is my number 5. And then Chris Olave and George Pickens are my numbers 6 and 7. And man, I could change up numbers 3 through 7 so many different ways. If the Cowboys end up with one of those 7 guys, I is happy. And if they don't, then I got about 5 or 6 more that you could do, say, third round, and I could deal with that. Jalen Tolbert at South Alabama. Some of these will have to be the second round. Jahan Dotson at Penn State, John Mechie at Alabama, Calvin Austin III is my little gadget speed guy at Memphis, Khalil Shakir at Boise State, and Alec Pierce at Cincinnati. Those are the guys in this draft that play wide receiver that I think can end up having an impact on an NFL team, but I want one of my top 7. That's what I want. Next, offensive tackle, Tyron Smith, Terrence Steele, Josh Ball, Isaac Alarcon, and Aviante Collins. I don't think that's good enough. You can hope that either Josh Ball, in basically a redshirt year, and an offseason now, has made the progress required to be a backup offensive tackle and back up both of those spots. You can hope that Isaac Alarcon in the international program and being on the Cowboys for long enough could take the step where he could be a guy that's in consideration for that. But I couldn't go into an NFL season feeling good about that depth chart. Now at offensive tackle, the names to know, Evan Neal and Ike Ekwonu are going to be gone. I don't want to play the they'll all be gone game. Charles Cross is a visitor to the Cowboys. He's an outstanding pass protector. Run game will be a work in progress, but he's a great athlete. He's a really good player. If he made it to 24, that is a nice player. Trevor Penning at Northern Iowa is Captain Mean Streak. He just wants to hurt people. If he's available at 24, he's a factor. Bernard Raymond at Central Michigan, former tight end as of 2 years ago. Now he's an offensive tackle. He's an incredible athlete. I think he's a little bit of a developmental player, but he is a Cowboys visitor. To me, he would be relevant at number 56. You're going to see him in the first round in a lot of mock drafts. And then Lucas, his first name I believe is Abraham, at Washington, is a great pass protector. And again, run game, he's all right. And it'll be a work in progress probably. But holy cow, 4 years he's had 3,000 some odd pass blocking snaps. And I have Tulsa's, is it Tyler Smith, as a third round guy. And people keep mocking him to the Cowboys at 24, which I don't appreciate. But it's at least worth knowing his name. So that gives you your offensive tackle targets. In a perfect world, you'd come out of this draft with one of those guys. But we'll probably find that I'm going to say that about too many positions. Offensive guard, Zach Martin, Connor McGovern, Matt Farniok. That ain't good enough. It's not. It's just not. Names to know that could potentially upgrade this thing. You guys know I've talked over and over again about Zion Johnson at Boston College, my number one guard. Kenyon Green at Texas A&M, my number two guard. Those are both first-round guys to me. 24 overall, you could pick either one of them and be pretty happy. Second round, Ed Ingram at LSU, Darian Kennard at Kentucky. Kennard is a freaking giant people mover. Third round, I have Jamari Sawyer, Georgia's left tackle. That'll be a guard in the league. Memphis, Dylan Parham. He played, what was he playing for them? Was he playing guard or center? And people are projecting him to be, don't worry about it. He could play guard or center in the NFL, I think. He's an undersized guy, but he's a great athlete. He's a really good player. And then Cole Strange at Chattanooga is my tiny school guy in the third round. So those are names to know to try to upgrade that group. Center, Tyler Biotish and Braylon Jones. Maybe you could upgrade center. You could definitely upgrade center if you use the 24th overall pick on Tyler Linderbaum at Iowa. After that, Luke Fortner at Kentucky, Cam Jurgens at Nebraska, as you get later into the draft, could be competition for Biotish. I don't know that either of them would take his job. Linderbaum would. That's your Cowboys offense. Now let me get rid of them. Boop, boop. And let me pull up the Cowboys defense. Doo-doo. Your defensive depth chart, starting with corner. You have Trayvon Diggs, Kelvin Joseph, Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis. Your depth guys are Nashawn Wright, CJ Goodwin, Kyron Brown. It's not a necessity to pick a corner. If you did pick a corner, hell, the Cowboys might be excited to go get more cap space by letting Anthony Brown go and saving $5 million. But you don't need to pick a corner. That group, that works. Safety, Malik Hooker, Jaron Kearse, those are your starters. Donovan Wilson, Darian Thompson, Israel Mukwamu, Tyler Coyle. You could play with that group. I wouldn't mind adding to, I didn't even do the guys who you could add at corner. I'm sorry. Look at me losing the point of the entire video. Corner, names to know. First round is Sauce Gardner and Derek Stingley. Maybe Trent McDuffie, the Washington corner. But I'll tell you, for Dan Quinn, I'm going to give you two names to keep in mind. Maybe three. Andrew Booth Jr. at Clemson would be considered at 24, I think. Full-size dude, can play off, can play press man. Elam at Florida. He's got some good tape out there. He's got good tape against Jamison Williams. He's got good tape against good players. He, I think, is at best in press, playing man, jamming dudes up, because he doesn't have the best breaks and change of direction at the top of routes. But he could be a first-round pick. He's worthy of it. If you get to 56, Elam at Florida, I could see Dan Quinn being a fan. He's over 6 foot tall. He's physical. He's long. And then keep in mind Kyler Gordon at Washington as well. Didn't test quite as well as people thought he might at the combine, but he's opposite Trent McDuffie at Washington. He's a good player. So keep those names in mind. Safety. Hooker, Curse, Wilson, Thompson, Mukwamu, Coyle. That group works. You got your starters. You got depth guys. I don't love that group. You can play with that group. Would I like to add to it? Yeah. And in a perfect world, I'd like to add to it in the second or third round, which now I've used like 8 second or third round picks. Jaquan Brisker at Penn State's a baller. Lewis Cine at Georgia's a baller. Jalen Petrie at Baylor's a baller. Those are second round guys. First round for me is Daxton Hill and Kyle Hamilton. Daxton Hill at Michigan can play slot corner like they had him do at Michigan a decent amount because he was just so good. They were like, hey, go do it. But can also play deep half, can play free safety. Daxton Hill's that dude. Kyle Hamilton is supercharged J-Ron Curse, probably going before number 24, but there's your group of safeties. Linebacker, you have Parsons, you have Jabril Cox, you have Leighton Vander Esch, you have Luke Gifford, you have Devontae Bond. You might have Francis Bernard. He's an exclusive rights free agent, so if they want him, they'll be keeping Francis Bernard as well. You can go play with that group. I would love to add somebody from a really good linebacker class, which this year is. I would love to add somebody to that group to free up Micah Parsons to play on the edge. Not all the time, but a good amount. I'd like him to go out there and rush the passer a good amount of time, especially considering what you currently have at edge. It would be nice. So Nakobe Dean, Georgia, Devin Lloyd, Utah. Those are the guys at number 24 overall that you would consider. Second and third round, there's a million of them. Well, 7 of them, 8 of them, 7. Damone Clark, we got to see if he's going to be able to play again. But Christian Harris at Alabama, Chad Muma is Wyoming, Asamoah at Oklahoma, Leo Chenal at Wisconsin, Channing Tindall at Georgia, Troy Anderson at Montana. Muma's Wyoming, Anderson's Montana. One of those group of guys being added to this group of linebackers would be great. Because then, instead of having to consider Micah Parsons at linebacker all the time, which don't get me wrong, the Cowboys aren't going to, but to feel better about moving him around and letting him do all sorts of different things, I would just love to have one more guy. For if Vander Esch is hurt, for if Jabril Cox, you're not comfortable with him being a full-time starter, I'd love to have one more dude to throw into that mix, not only for this year, but for the long term, so that the future of your linebacker core could be Micah Parsons, Jabril Cox, and one of those names. That would be sexy. Edge, Tank Lawrence, Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler, Chauncey Golston, Terrell Basham. You can go play with that. I'd like to upgrade it. Dante Fowler is not a lock to make the team just based on guaranteed money and all that. He's not a lock, but you would think as a Dan Quinn guy that Dan Quinn thinks he can get the most out of, that Dante Fowler is probably going to be on the team. Chauncey Golston is a third-round pick going into his second year. He's going to be on the team. Dorrance Armstrong is paid. He's going to be on the team. Terrell Basham, I guess, in theory, doesn't have to be. So if you're picking a guy, you would want him to be an upgrade over one of these, although you can carry 6 edge guys. Names to know, could you get George Karlaftis of Purdue to fall to 24? Because if you could, I think he becomes your second best edge. Could you get Jermaine Johnson at Florida State to fall there? Probably not, but he would probably become your second best edge. After that, I start looking in the second round at Nick Benito at Oklahoma, who would be more of just a pass rusher, but he would be an edge. Dude's got a first step and an ability to turn the corner that I love. First and second downs against the run, I think he'd be susceptible, but dude can rush the passer. Same with Boye Mafe at Minnesota. Freaky, freaky, freaky athlete. Same with Arnold Ebiketie at Penn State. So those are three guys in the second round that I like that are more pass rushers than every down edge players, at least at this point, but they're good players. The two guys in the second or third round that can play the run and have some pass rush, didn't put his first name on my board. Enigbare at South Carolina and Sam Williams at Ole Miss. You may throw Drake Jackson at USC into that mix as well. And then at defensive line or defensive tackle, you got Osa, Neville Gallimore, Carlos Watkins, Tristan Hill, Quentin Bohanna, and I don't know how to say Austin's last name. But you have 6 guys. That's more than enough. If you think that 5 of those guys are going to make the team, then you can go play with that. I don't really want to go play with that. I would much rather, I want to find one more guy. Quentin Bohanna, if he can come along and improve and be a nose tackle that's just kind of a space eater run player, that'd be great. Carlos Watkins wasn't bad last year. Neville Gallimore had moments where it looked like he was going to become a good player. Osa too. I would like to maybe get Tristan Hill off of the depth chart and add a defensive tackle that could help you do that. Because right now you've got 3 techniques stacked in there that Osa and Gallimore, I like. Tristan Hill, Bohanna's a one technique. Watkins has been playing some one technique, even though I don't think that's really his position. It's like, that's an NFL depth chart at defensive tackle. It ain't a good one, but it's a functional one. You can play with it. Jordan Davis at Georgia gets to 24. You can pick him. I love Travis Jones at UConn. I'd love it if he could make it to your second round pick. He's the other Jordan Davis, the athletic, over 330-pound defensive tackle. Outside of those guys, I think you could look at Logan Hall at Houston in the second round, Devontae Wyatt at Georgia, maybe a first-round pick. Perion Winfrey at Oklahoma, DeMarvin Leal at Texas A&M, Fedarian Mathis at Alabama. Mathis is a one technique. Leal and Winfrey are 3 technique pass rush guys. That gives you your options on day 2 at defensive tackle. And we're done. We did the whole thing. Now you have the Cowboys depth chart as it stands today, and you have where they probably need to address and where I would like to see them address. You may leave in the comments what you want to hear about tomorrow. I think I'm going to do a stream with Jay Tuck, my friend, tonight. So be here for that. And remember that you have no idea what anybody's going through, so be cool to everyone. I love you. Bye.